Hey, and welcome to the live show here every Sunday on Motormouth. It's 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, and I will be here every Sunday except for when I'm traveling. Last weekend was Canadian Thanksgiving, so couldn't do it last week, but it's good to be back here. So wait for people to load on and get their questions going. Just a couple of things I want to tell you about. If you have time, it would be great for you to go over and like the Motormouth Facebook page, because what I do on the Motormouth Facebook page is I put out a lot of any car news, any articles or things that I see about the auto industry that might be of interest to you. I post those on the Motormouth Facebook page, and you can get some car information right away. For example, this week I put an article on there about the new 911. It's going to debut at the LA Auto Show, so that was information. Also, there was news this week that Mazda is putting the 2.5 liter turbo that's in the CX9 in the smaller CX5, and we've had questions about that here on the show. Also, some other stories like the top 10 selling cars here in the Canadian market so far this year. Also, there was some information about the specifications for the new GMC diesel in the light-duty vehicle, Volkswagen Electric, also hybrids and Toyota. So lots of information that comes my way through all the feeds that I get, and if I think it's an interesting story, I share it on Facebook. So go to Facebook and go to Motormouth and like the page, and then you'll get all of the stuff. And also I put some silly videos. If I find a silly video, I usually put those on there as well. So that's what's going on. Also, I want to let you know at Instagram, if you could follow along. Last week I did, asked everybody, hey, if you could just take a moment and go over to Instagram and follow along. I got a lot of people follow along after the live show. So if you have a moment, go to Instagram and search Motormouth_auto, and you'll see me there. Click on that, and I send out pictures. Here's some pictures I've sent out of different events. I was at the Kia Forte launch in Quebec this week. The Genesis G70 video, I'm just editing it now. That'll be coming out in the next few days. Last week we had the Veloster on there. A lot of Korean cars here. Recent video and trip that I went on was the new Audi Q3. So I'm always putting new things on there, and it'd be great if you could follow along on Instagram, Motormouth_auto. Also, the channel is going to have a sponsor here. At the beginning of November, there's going to be a sponsor of the channel, an overall sponsorship of the channel. So you're going to see that. It's a Canadian service. It's not from OEMs. It's just a service where you can save money on buying a brand new car. So I'll be telling you more about that when we get close to that. All right, so let's see what's going on in the chat room here and get into the questions and answers. First one from Calvin says, hey Zach, do you know if Audi is going to upgrade the interior of the A5 and A4 along the lines of the A7 and the Q3? Also, do you know when Canada will get the new BMW 3 Series? So the new A5 and A4, sorry, the A4 and A5, I don't think you're going to get the A7 and the A6 interior, probably more along the lines of that new Q3 that I saw here. Yeah, they're going to upgrade the head unit, make it bigger. So yeah, probably when the cars are due for a facelift, and I think the A4 will be probably next year, so hopefully we'll get those. When the BMW 3 Series is coming to Canada, I'm not quite sure. Typically, they introduce the cars in the European market almost a full year before they come to North America. BMW seems to be a little better at that than other brands, but yeah, there's usually delay. They're introduced to the native European market first, and then they get introduced in other markets. Excuse me. Next question. Hey Zach, I'm looking to buy a compact crossover. However, I can't decide between the Nissan Kicks and the Hyundai Kona. Which of the two is a better buy in terms of quality and reliability? Well, it's hard to say because both of them are brand new cars. The Kicks is not available with all-wheel drive where the Kona is. And the Kona also has, when you upgrade from the base model, you get independent rear suspension, and you get a conventional automatic transmission, where the Kicks you get a CVT. The Kona is one of the fastest, actually, until about a month ago, it was the fastest selling new vehicle introduction in our Canadian marketplace. So it is selling like crazy. I did enjoy the Nissan Kicks. I was surprised. I actually think that the Kicks is nicer to drive than the Qashqai, and I was impressed with Qashqai. So I encourage you to try them both. If it was me and it was my money, I probably would go for Kona. But they're both compelling packages. The interesting thing about Kicks is they priced it almost exactly the same as buying a Sentra. So people are going to go into the dealerships and they're going to look at a compact Sentra and they're thinking, hey, for the same price and front-wheel drive only, you can get a sort of a small utility vehicle. There's really no issue with both. I lean towards the Kona mostly because it doesn't have a CVT. Bruno says, hey Zach, what do you think about the new Mercedes-Benz A35 AMG? I know when it's coming to Canada as a model year 2020. I don't know anything about the specifics of that car, I'm sorry. Roy says, hey Zach, any idea on the 2019 Mazda 3 or Mazda 3? So yeah, this vehicle is at the very end of its line. They are going to be coming out with a new compact car, and we've seen a lot of the compact car concept vehicles at different auto shows. It could be any time, might be at the LA Auto Show that's coming up in the third week of November. So it's either going to be then or Detroit, and Detroit is second week in January. Probably more like LA. A lot of car companies are pulling out of the Detroit show. Mercedes-Benz is out, BMW is out, Mini's out, Audi's out. I think Porsche is out. There's so many brands that have just bailed on the North American International Auto Show, so much so that the North American International Auto Show in Detroit, or the Detroit Auto Show, this is the very last year that they will have it in January. They're going to be moving it to the spring the following year. Fabio says, I'm planning on getting the Mazda CX5. Do you think the Active Sense is worth it? I think that it's probably best to shop for vehicles that have the forward collision warning with autonomous braking. That is one feature that really is going to save your ass if you're not paying attention. And we've all had this, looking down, fumbling for your sunglasses. God forbid you're looking at your phone and then you look up and all of a sudden it's a sea of red lights and you jam on the brakes and you hope you're going to stop in time. These forward collision warning and autonomous braking systems, I think, are going to save so many rear enders. So yes, that part of the advanced safety suite for all companies, whether it's Toyota, Honda, or Mazda, is worth it. So yes, I would encourage you to get at least that. Some of the packages have things like the cross traffic alert, which is handy if you back out of a parking garage or a parking stall regularly. Ushan says, hey Zach, what do you think of the new 3 Series? Seems like they finally added some of the missing pieces. Is it just a hype or a genuine upgrade? Hopefully you're going to review it soon. Yeah, I'm hoping I'm going to get a chance to review it as well. I can't say anything until I drive the car and actually get a chance to see it. So it was shown at the Paris Auto Show, and yes, BMW, in my opinion, and I have talked about this endlessly, and I get grilled in the comments section when I review their cars. I say a lot of their vehicles are the same. They're not taking any chances. Well, now they're going to be doing some new things with the 3 Series. So let's wait and see what happens. Let's get a chance to drive it first. Typically, what happens is everybody catches up to BMW, and just as they catch up, BMW shoots ahead. And that might be the case with this new G70 from Genesis. The review of this, I'm just editing it now. It's going to be out the next few days. I said this vehicle, in my opinion, kind of moves to the top of the class based on price. But I said also in the review, the new 3 Series has just been announced. So just as people catch up, BMW often has the knack of just pulling away again. So we'll have to wait and see. Hello from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Hello back at you. Ganesh says, hey Zach, what is your opinion of the 2019 Toyota Camry SE? Heard transmission is not smooth. Is it a good daily driver? I'm planning to buy it in December. I have no issue with the way it drives. I thought it was great. The SE is the sportier looking one. Not sure if you're getting the 6-cylinder. What's it called again? Yeah, the 4-cylinder was great. Here's the interesting thing. I had a chance to, I've driven all of them, the V6, the 4-cylinder, and the hybrid. If you're considering buying the 4-cylinder Toyota Camry, do yourself a favor and drive the hybrid. The hybrid, and I've never thought I would say this ever in a million years, is a better driving car than the regular 4-cylinder, because they've tuned the hybrid system to give you instant out-of-the-pocket torque. It delivers amazing fuel economy, and it just actually is a nicer car to drive. So, and it's quieter. So there you go. So don't dismiss the hybrid. Give that a shot. Pratik says, hey Zach, what do you think about the new, of a used Lexus IS 350 with 180,000 kilometers on the odometer? Well, first of all, you have to just start with the brand. Lexus as a brand has earned the reputation for, bulletproof reliability and long-term durability. However, when you look at a vehicle that's got that many miles or kilometers on it, you have to get it inspected. You have to do a car-proof report. Depending on where you live across the country, you need to find out any insurance claims that have been done on the vehicle. And if you have the vehicle identification number, the VIN, you can take it to a dealer and see what warranty work has been done on that car. 180,000 kilometers on a Lexus. It certainly has lots and lots of life left to it, but you have to do your due diligence when you're shopping for a car that is 10 years old, almost 11 years old now, and has that many kilometers on it. But just on sheer brand alone, it should be good. Steve says, hey Zach, looking at the 19 Q3, lease or buy. It's a personal decision. I'm a big fan of leasing for a couple of reasons. First of all, you have a lower payment every month, and I call it the 3 or 4 year long test drive. So drive the car for 3 years. If you absolutely love it and you think you want to keep it, buy it out and pay it off and keep it. If it's been problematic and you didn't love it, you can give it back and move on to something else. Plus, there is an extra layer of security with leasing, because if you get in an accident and you get the car repaired to the manufacturer's specifications, like take it to an authorized repair center. If the car was in a severe accident, the car is now depreciated in the marketplace. However, the company that takes the car back absorbs that depreciation and you don't. So there's one extra layer of depreciation there. And so, yeah, it's up to you. It really comes down to what you can afford each month. Dale says, hey Zach, should a defeat button for auto start stop be a must on new cars? It's extremely annoying. A lot of them do have it. I'm trying to think of a vehicle that I've had where it doesn't have it. But, if that's a deal breaker for you, then don't buy one that can't be defeated. Most of them that I've driven do have a defeat setting. And the reason why they have the defeat setting is when you're in bumper-to-bumper traffic, you crawl 5 feet, then you stop, you crawl, and then you don't want the engine switching on and off all the time. It's just annoying. It should be in there. Mo says, hey Zach, what are your thoughts on the CX5 Turbo? So this brings me to a good point again. If you are just joining me now, I would love if you could follow along, excuse me, on Facebook. On Facebook, go to Motormouth and like the page, because a lot of the industry news that I get in my feeds, I share there. And one of the stories this week was on the fact that, yes, the CX5 from Mazda is going to have the 2.5-liter turbocharged engine. It is wonderful in the larger CX9. In fact, the review that I did with my wife of the CX9, we were both shocked by just how good it is, because it is a high compression ratio engine and it's turbocharged. It has the characteristics more of a turbo diesel engine, which gives you that low bottom end torque and mid-range power. It isn't a high revving, high horsepower engine at high RPM like you get with some 2 liters and from other brands. It delivers the bottom end torque that makes it satisfying to drive. So yeah, I think it's great. I would love them to share that through a lot of other cars in their line. And we're still waiting to hear about the diesel that apparently has had EPA approval, but that one would be another great choice for that vehicle. I think it's going to be fantastic. What are they going to charge as a premium? We'll have to wait and see. Par says, hey Zach, I'm disappointed BMW will be dropping the manual. Not going to get rid of mine now for sure. What are your thoughts on them not making it? Will they bring it in the M models in the future? Yeah, so with this new 3 Series that they announced, they basically said they're not going to be making a manual transmission anymore. And they're basically reflecting the marketplace. So for non-M cars, the take rate on manuals is probably next to nothing. So they basically are going to push people who want a BMW manual probably in to those M cars. And you know, Save the Manuals is a great campaign, but we are moving away from that. And there's very few brands that make a manual. Here's a perfect example. In my review of the G70 from Genesis, I mentioned that they make a 4-cylinder rear-wheel drive manual transmission only for the Canadian marketplace, not available in the US. So the product planning department at Genesis Motors Canada went to bat to the Koreans and said, we'd like to have this kind of one-off manual version. I'll have to check in when I see, I'm going to be going to drive the Veloster N in California in a few weeks. So when I get there, I'll ask about, you know, the Genesis side of the business and how many they're actually selling. But it'll be interesting to find out. The market's moving away from manuals, unfortunately. All right, Juan says, hey Zach, what do you think about the Forester, the 2019? I think the new Forester is great. A lot of people griped in my review that they've gotten rid of the turbo, and they have, what was the other thing? They've gotten rid of the turbo and no manual anymore. Same thing. The take rate on the manual was probably so low that they decided just to get rid of it. They improved the regular car. They don't have a turbo any longer in the Forester, but it also leaves the door open, excuse me, that they could bring out a special version, an XT or a GT model using the new 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder that's in the Ascent, and that is a great engine. So on the Forester, I would say stay tuned on the turbo. I bet you it will come back as a specialty model in the future. But the Forester overall, I know it looks similar to the existing model, but it's very different. It still has all of the functionality, those huge doors, the big windows, the sight lines, the mirrors mounted on the body and not on the mirror on the windows. Great outward visibility, much improved head unit, much improved interior noise, much softer touch materials in the seats and on the doors. So yeah, it's a better Forester. Not available with those features though. Mark C says, I heard the Audi R8 is being discontinued. What do you know about that? I don't know about that. That is sort of like their halo car. They have a whole separate factory just for the R8, so I don't know about that. Zach, what are your thoughts on the M2 competition? If you can afford one, you should buy one because, first of all, the 2 Series from BMW is my favorite line, the favorite series of BMW. M2 is fantastic, and the competition just gives you more, and they charge you more. The sweet spot really is the M240. That is a great engine in the non-wide body car, and yeah, if you're going for value, the M240. If you're going for just all-out performance, the M2 is the way to go. Rafi says, hey Zach, greetings from Winnipeg. What's the best premium SUV out of the Mercedes-Benz GLC, Audi Q5, BMW X3 in your opinion? Not taking into consideration the performance models, so not the AMGs and all that. I would say the best performance. Okay, so in terms of performance and handling, I think the new X3, which I drove, and there's a review on the channel, I think is the winner. I think that the GLC and the Q5 are really good all-rounders. I think I did a review of the Q5 recently. You can watch that, and I called it the best overall in its class. So the GLC and the Q5 are sort of good all-rounders. They do everything really well. The new X3 is the latest and the newest, so it has that advantage going for it. The only issue I had with the X3, if you don't get the 6-cylinder, you get the Turbo 4. It was great in the city. The mid-range torque was wonderful, moving in and out of traffic. On the highway, though, I found it a little bit underpowered. If you could afford in any way to get the X3 M40, that's the one to get. Now, I know you said don't get the performance one, but that would be the one to get. Why is Mercedes following Lexus on their new infotainment control? Everything goes in trends. The whole thing about the auto industry is it's like, I gotta have it. If they gotta have it, I gotta have it. In everything. And one of the interesting things I think that's gonna happen is everybody's doing this push towards autonomy. everyone's pushing for the cars to drive themselves. I bet you the auto industry is going to look back and say, why the hell did we do that? All we're doing is putting ourselves out of business. But because one brand has some form of semi-autonomous system, they all got to copy them. And it's sad though that some brands, a lot of brands, like you can see, something comes out and that's new and innovative, they all copy it. And a lot of it comes down to the parts suppliers. Like a lot of the research and development, believe it or not, comes from the parts supply companies. And they'll have a new feature like that. Here's a perfect example, that kick feature where you stick your foot under the bumper and the hatchback or the lift gate goes up automatically. Well, I'm not sure who makes that, but whatever parts supplier supplies that, they say, oh, I got to have it too. So I think it's the same with the in-dash units. Here's a perfect example. If you look at the specifications of the large screens in the center of the dash and also the digital dashboards or digital cockpits, actually all of the screens on the large side are exactly 12.3 inches. Why is that? Probably because the supplier that makes those screens sells them in 12.3 inches. So yeah, they're all buying pieces from the same companies and trying to make it their own. All right, next one comes from Ahmed. Says, hey Zach from Calgary, any thoughts on the new BMW X5 versus the GLE? Which one is the better buy? Well, they're not here yet, dude. You got to wait. We got to get a chance to drive them. I am going to be going to Veloster N in California, and directly from there I'm going to be going to San Antonio, Texas to drive the new GLE. So let's wait and see. That's just about a month away. So let's wait and see on the new GLE. Yeah, I have to drive them. Elizabeth Long says, hello, I always joke. Elizabeth is in this house full of dudes here. So thank you for checking in. Bavin says, hey Zach, what do you prefer for reliability and resale value? Volvo XC40 or Audi Q5? The numbers for reliability are easy to look up from brands like J.D. Power and Consumer Reports. The Volvo in-dash head unit that they use across all of their new products has been buggy and problematic, and it has delivered a lot of complaints. So that's something to take into consideration. You can look up and see that Volvo is below Audi in terms of reliability. So does that affect resale value? Well, one thing you can do is you can go in the Canadian market to canadianblackbook.com, canadianblackbook.com. Full disclosure, I do some work for Canadian Black Book. So go to canadianblackbook.com and type in 2018 XC40 and also the Q5, and they will do predicted depreciation. And you will see which one they predict will depreciate faster than the other. So in terms of quality, I think Audi's got it, and then you can look up yourself which one is going to have the predicted better resale value. How much do you love the Porsche Carrera T with manual transmission? I think that if I was in the market for a new Carrera, and I'm not, that would be a really, really strong contender. And I have had a chance to drive it on the track, which isn't really a good test drive of the vehicle. It's when you get a chance to live with it every single day. But I've driven it, and a lot of my colleagues have driven it, and everybody raves about it. So I think it's a fantastic option. If you can get one, I think it's going to be I think in the future it'll be a collectible car. I think it's going to be a car that people are going to want, and it's probably going to hold its value better than some of the other Carrera models. The Martian one says, any word on Veloster N and whether you think it will dethrone the GTI? Like I said, I'm going to get a chance to drive it in about a month, so hang tight for that. Dave says, 500X or Countryman all-wheel drive. Countryman. Countryman is based on the same platform as the BMW X1. Okay, so this is the very first time that BMW has ever shared a platform outside of the BMW brand. And of course, they own Mini, but the fact that they have now co-developed a platform, so the engine goes side to side in the engine compartment. It offers more space on the inside for the Mini setup, but also if you are considering the Countryman, also look at an X1. Okay, great handling vehicle. Ben Hayes, hi Zach. Thinking about getting a sporty SUV, 16 or 17 SQ5, Certified version, good to see. Someone's paying attention. Get the certified one. Is on top of my list because of the supercharged engine and wonderful engine sound. Your opinion? Yeah, that was a really nice product. 340 horsepower, I think, off the top of my head. And then in the SQ5, the new one, they switched to the twin turbocharged engine that's used extensively across a lot of other vehicles. Is it twin turbo or is it single turbo? 3 liter. I think off the top of my head, I think it's twin turbocharged. Anyway, it doesn't really matter if it's single or twin. The old supercharged engine was so much fun. The only thing that lets that vehicle down is the interior was at the end of its cycle and was a little bit dated. But yeah, a really nice product and a much better deal than buying a Cayenne. And I think, yeah, give it a shot. Check it out. Make sure it is certified. Get it inspected. All those sorts of things. Fabio says, hi Zach, Compass or CX5? I said this last week about the Compass. I don't mind the Compass, fine. It's a fine FCA product. I just had a chance to drive the Cherokee, and the video will be coming out shortly. If you can afford the stretch to the Cherokee is just a little, like the Compass falls between two vehicles. Like they have so many slices of the Jeep pie now that I think that if you're going to buy a Compass, make the jump and get the Cherokee. Cherokee is surprisingly good. They made so many nice updates to the interior of that product. They cleaned up the outside with the headlamps, makes it look much more cohesive, but it's the inside that is so much more comfortable. But the CX5, I think, is the one that I would choose. All right, jumping ahead here. Hey, Zach, I read lots about issues with the 1.5 liter turbo. I thought this would come up. In the Honda CR-V, people are claiming there's buildup of gas in the engine and oil. Any truth about this? So, back to my point I made earlier. Here's a perfect example of a story that I shared on Facebook. So please go over to Facebook and follow Motormouth. Hit the like button there. And a lot of these stories that come out about this, I put on there. So this is one where I actually did put an article up, and there have been complaints, and there actually has been a recall campaign in other markets outside of North America. So nothing new on that. Here for the North American market, but I've heard a few complaints about the engine. One is that yes, there is coolant. Is it coolant getting in the gas or the other way around? Anyway, yeah, there's coolant getting into the gas, and the other thing is there's stories that the engines aren't heating up enough, and this problem is being noticed more in cold climates, so northern US states and in Canada. So it seems that cold weather is affecting this 1.5 liter turbocharged engine from Honda. So, you know, they do know how to make great products, and hopefully they'll have a remedy for this, but yeah. I have heard about it, and there is an article that I did share on my Facebook page. It's Motormouth. Go and like. While I'm at it, go to Instagram. It's Motormouth_auto. I had a lot of people sign up and follow last week, so thank you for doing that, and hopefully we can get more this week. Hey Zach, are fastbacks like the BMW 540 and the S5 Sportback as functional as smaller SUVs like the Macan and F-Pace? No, they're not. You probably need to go to a bigger product like the Kia Stinger or an Audi A7 to get similar kind of utility. Here's a perfect example. Somebody I know bought an Audi A7 and they wanted to put their dog in the back, but because of the slope of the rear window, it didn't work and had to actually return the car and buy something else at a lot of expense. So yeah, here's the thing with any car, any car, what are you going to use it for? If you're going to put a dog in the back, take the dog to the dealer and see if the dog likes sitting back there. If you need to put car seats and baby strollers in the car, take them to the dealer and try them out. If you need to pick up grandma every Sunday to take her for dinner, don't buy a big jacked up pickup truck. She's going to have to climb into it. So they are not going to offer the same utility as a small SUV. However, the trunks, because of the liftgate, are very long. I had an Audi A7 and it was we loved it. You could stuff so much into it, just not high objects, like a dog standing up. Par says, might sound like a silly question, but what car gets best fuel economy at 75 or 80 miles an hour? Why does no one do highway tests at that speed? Because the speed limit is not that high. So all vehicles are tested for a 5-cycle test: cold start, driving up hills, city, highway, and then high speed passing. And they do go a little bit above the speed limit, but not much. It's interesting, I was driving the new Forte, and the posted highway fuel economy on this new Forte is 5.7 liters per 100 kilometers on the highway, which is 41 miles per gallon on the highway. And I was getting better than the posted numbers while driving in Quebec this week. And so that was really impressive. Now, when I went up above the speed limit by about 10 or 15 kilometers an hour, the fuel economy was dramatically affected. So once you get to a certain speed, pushing the vehicle through the air, which is why aerodynamics are so important with a modern vehicle, the fuel economy was really quite different. So the faster you go, the more fuel you're going to use. So always keep that in mind. They don't test them because those aren't the posted speed limits. Ushan says, I'm trying to understand the importance of CarProof. Is it a history report or it is some sort of guarantee? What's the difference with that and a certified pre-owned? Okay, so they have Carfax in the United States, and in the Canadian market it's called CarProof. And what it is a history of the vehicle. When the car has ever been registered anywhere in the Canadian marketplace, when it is being sold, a list of owners, like it'll show that there was a title change and a dealership bought it, then it was sold to somebody else. They don't show you the names, but they show you a title transfer. Any jurisdiction that's had to have an air quality test done, usually annually, it'll show when it's done that. It'll show when it's gone to the dealer for work and all those sorts of things. And it will also show, and this is probably one of the most important, if the vehicle has been in an accident and there has been an insurance claim made on the vehicle. So what you're doing is getting basically a report, the history of the vehicle. How is it different than a certified pre-owned? Well, with a certified pre-owned, they're not going to guarantee that the vehicle hasn't been in an accident. It might have been repaired to the manufacturer's specifications, but maybe they're not disclosing that. It's always a good idea. Here's the thing is, if you're going to get a certified pre-owned car, ask the dealer for a CarProof report. Actually, if you're getting a car from any authorized dealer, whether it's in the United States or Canada, in the US you're going to want a CarProof, and in the US you want a Carfax, in Canada you want to get the CarProof. Tell them, hey, provide me a CarProof report on this. If they don't want to, walk away, because they might have something to hide. So it's something that they should provide you if you ask for it. Hey Zach, as a dad with 2 girls, which one would you suggest replacing a 2011 Mercedes R350? A very cool car. He's asking for an Atlas or a Subaru Ascent. Now, if you just want size, like the R350 from Mercedes was that really funky looking Mercedes kind of minivan-ish. So if you're looking for a vehicle that's big like that, the Atlas is going to be the way to go. However, the new Forester Ascent impressed me to no end. It's quiet, the new turbocharged engine is very good, the interior is very well designed, it's got great ergonomics, and it really just works. So I want you to try both of them. If it's just sheer size and a big vehicle for as many people as you can on the inside, the Atlas is definitely the one to pick. Clarkson Jen says, hey Zach, I'm wondering what's your take on truck versus full-size sedans? What's your take on truck versus full-size sedans? Been looking at a new, okay, I get it. Been looking at a new Ram 1500s and a Genesis G80 for quite a bit. I'm a tall guy. This is, and I'm not considering mid-size vehicles. Well, you couldn't pick two, like these are apples and oranges. A full-size truck and a full-size sedan. Which one do you want? If you're just looking for room to stretch out because you're a big guy, get the truck. Addy Ade, hey Zach, will you review the new BMW X5 and GLE? Yeah, I just talked about that. Yes, I will when I get a chance to. Luke says, hey Zach, is the price of the Kona Electric being announced in Canada? Here's the thing, I couldn't go. Actually, the ride and drive for the Kona Electric was just yesterday in California, in the Los Angeles area. I couldn't go, so Mike Gurr from the channel has gone. And so hopefully right now Mike is feverishly at home listening to this and editing away the Kona Electric. Here's the thing is, Kona is only going to be front-wheel drive. It's going to have over 400 kilometers of electric range, but they haven't announced the price for the Canadian marketplace. They got some hints from the Hyundai people when they were down there. It's probably going to be over $40,000 in the Canadian marketplace, but they haven't finalized the pricing. And then the other question was, how many are they going to get? They said 5,000. Well, that's good. Hopefully there's 5,000 potential buyers out there. But the only issue you have with the Kona, and I haven't driven it, and we're going to have to wait for Mike's review, is that it's really not that much bigger, if bigger at all, than the Chevy Bolt, which also has similar range. And we already know the pricing of that. It starts at $42,000. Here's my prediction. That new Kona will start at the same price as the Bolt in the Canadian marketplace, right around $42,000, $43,000. That's my prediction. We'll have to wait and see. So yes, Mike Gurr hopefully is working on that, and will get it to us in the next few days. Peter Ez says, hey Zach, when is the launch for the Honda Civic 19? The Honda Civic 19 is out now. They haven't decided to do a launch for it because the updates for it are really quite minor. Mild facelift. I was speaking to where was I for Honda recently? I was driving the hydrogen fuel cell vehicle. I think that's when it was. And I said, what's going on with the Honda? And they said, well, there is no really big update for it. They've just done a mild facelift. The biggest #1 update for the Honda Civic is the radio now has a volume knob. Thank you, Honda. And they listened. So it's got the same head unit as the CR-V with the volume knob. So that's the big news. There is no launch for it from what I understand. Darren says, seems like North Americans always getting screwed when it comes to choices. For example, Volkswagen sells cars like the Scirocco in Europe. Well, they don't sell the Scirocco any longer. It's been canceled. They never thought there would be a big enough market for it. It was sold in the Australian market. The only time I ever got a chance to drive it was driving it in Australia, which was so cool. But yeah, Scirocco is no longer being made, and Scirocco is probably not coming back. And Scirocco was not on the MQB platform. It was on the old Golf platform, on the Mark VI platform, and was not available even with the R with all-wheel drive. It was just front-wheel drive. So yeah, it all sounds great, but not exactly the most modern and technologically advanced compared to the new Volkswagens. It all comes down to, here's the thing is, I went recently to Wolfsburg, to Autostadt there, to have a look at one of the biggest car factories in the world, and the video is on the channel. They have so many different trim lines of vehicles, and in the European market they pay way more for cars than we do in North America. So we buy cars like they're disposable, every few years get a new one. A lot of Europeans, they spend months deciding what features they're going to get, and you can pick everything a la carte, and your Volkswagen Golf might be totally different than anybody else's. Different engine, different features. So they have so much more to choose from there because they have people that demand that in that marketplace. I read in an interview the reason they don't sell the car in North America is because they don't want to cannibalize the sales of the Golf. No, I just told you the answer. Oceanic Flight, what's your opinion of the GMC Terrain? I like the Terrain a lot. I didn't like the push-button transmission thing. I think that the Equinox, in actual fact, I think the Equinox on the inside, because it's got a regular shifter, would be the one that I would go towards. But the nice thing is Equinox and Terrain are both available with the diesel engine. Now this isn't the most powerful diesel engine for city use, but if you were doing a lot of highway driving, like if you were doing several hundred miles or kilometers a day and you wanted a thrifty utility vehicle, that would be one I would consider, because it's one of the only ones that's available with a diesel for now out of non-premium brands. But both vehicles I liked. The Terrain, I think, looks better on the outside. The Chevrolet version has a nicer interior because it has the regular shifter. Bruno says, my wife is looking at SUV. I know that you have a Cayenne. Do you recommend a 13, 14 non-turbo? Do you have any other suggestion on the 40-ish budget? Okay, absolutely nothing wrong with a 13 or 14 non-turbo Cayenne. So that's the VR6 engine. which is, and it's the same engine that's used in Atlas, but it has more power because it runs with premium fuel. A really well-made product, a bulletproof engine. Same thing, if you can find a certified pre-owned one that's under warranty, get the car proof, get it inspected, all those sorts of things. I have no problem suggesting that car at all. We've had now for 6 months a Cayenne in our family, so we've bought 2 of them. We love them. I have no problem suggesting do all your due diligence and make sure you get it checked, but yeah, no problem at all. Are companies like Kelley Blue Book and Canadian Black Book a scam, since the company who owns them are in the used car business? For example, the company that owns Auto Trader in the US is Kelley Blue Book. Well, in Canada, that's not the case. Canadian Black Book is not. So I don't know anything about Blue Book in the US, but I don't think it's a scam. They actually, all they do, here's what they do. They report values of cars. They track vehicles in the marketplace, how they're selling, and they also monitor the sales of vehicles at auction. And there are auction houses all across North America where literally tens of thousands of vehicles are auctioned every single week. And they monitor the values of where those vehicles are trading at auction. They also monitor what dealerships are giving for trade-ins at dealerships. And they give basically a value guide for other people who are buying and selling. And that's really what they're doing. The fact that maybe they own Auto Trader in the US, it doesn't really matter. They're providing a service. It was designed mostly for dealers, and now they've made it public. So no, I don't think there's anything going on there. Dave Reimer says, hey Zach, Dave from Port Moody, on cars with increasing electronic nannies, are we going to see a slowdown at all from car companies? They are making cars unreliable, long-term, and annoying. Well, I don't know about that. I mean, what I have a worry about is all of the electronics and how long car companies are going to support the electronics with parts, right? So a water pump or a transmission or, you know, basic mechanical stuff is going to be fine. But, you know, all of the in-dash technology, how long is it going to be supported? I don't know. Like when you look at, say, older vehicles from the 80s and the 90s that had some really funky digital features, like a lot of GM cars had some advanced dashboards, they now have to be you know, somebody has to actually take them out and resolder the parts and all that kind of stuff. And it's hard to get that fixed. So that's more my worry than the nannies, the electronic nannies. Randy Singh, what do you think? Wanted to say thank you for your channel's review on the Ford Focus ST because it was very helpful in making my choice for a new car. There you go. That's a lot of car for the money. It's a lot of fun. The other one is the Fiesta ST. That's a great little car, but obviously too small for some. Clarkson Jang says, hey Zach, have you driven the previous gen Lexus LS 460 and how do you like it? Yeah, I've driven all the Lexus LS. It's just a big traditional luxury sedan. That's what it is. A big traditional luxury sedan. So if you want a big car with a soft suspension and soft steering and it drives along in traditional quiet luxury fashion, have at it. It's like the S-Class. It's not a car you're really, you know, it's a big car you could tour with, but there's, you know, it's very well made. Same thing, you have to do your due diligence on it, but yeah, no issues with it at all. But it's a traditional large luxury sedan, nothing more. Eric says, hey, it's Eric from Mississauga, longtime fan. Thanks for checking in and checking us out. I know you're a fan of leasing cars. How many cars have you personally leased versus financing bought and is your current Porsche on lease? So I have leased, how many cars have I leased? Two or three. Most of the other ones I bought or financed over a longer period of time. And I'm not no, I've leased 3 cars. The last 2 cars I've leased, and yes, the Cayenne is leased. One of the reasons is, of course, you get a lower monthly payment. It's just cash flow. It depends on your business if you can write some of it off, which is a tax concern. And the same thing again is I call it the long-term test drive. If you want to try the car out for 3 years, if it's been great, then you can buy it out. So a lot of times financing a vehicle, especially if you get into higher end cars, the amount every month is very, very expensive. And please do not go and get one of these 7 or 8 year terms for buying a car, because your car will always be worth less than you owe. So if it's really all just about monthly payments, then I think leasing is a better way to go, because you know that after 3 or 4 years, whenever the lease is up, if you're tired of the car and you don't want to keep it, you can give it back. You've fulfilled your obligation. But if you get into a car payment that's 8 years, you will never ever be able to get out of that, because the car will always be worth less than the money you owe. So that's something to consider. Ushan says, personal experience, sat in the Genesis, but the seats are rock hard, so I was disappointed. I've experienced the same in Hondas. I don't know if you felt the same. Well, the thing about seats is it's very personal. Like what is comfortable for one person isn't for somebody else. I have a bad back and I like seats that are a little bit softer. I'm with you on that. But I also like very supportive seats. So it's such an interesting thing. People will say one thing about a car and I will disagree with them. For example, I always think that Toyota puts in a good density of foam. I'm not sure what the foam is that they use in their seats, but they're even on their least expensive cars, they always seem to me to be comfortable, but somebody else might like them. I had somebody email me and say, I don't like the RAV4 seats, and I'm thinking, really? I thought they were good. So it's very, very personal. Okay, Parth, you're asking too many questions, dude. I'm going to skip past you. Akash, Honda Civic Coupe or Veloster? Thanks, sir. Big fan. That's a tough one. If it was the SI Coupe, then it would be the SI, for sure. And the Veloster Turbo, I was really, so there it is there. The Veloster Turbo, I was really pleasantly surprised with that car. The biggest disappointment is the whole dash and the doors are all covered in hard, inexpensive plastic. It looks good, but when you start touching and feeling it, it kind of lets you down. And, you know, some people say, well, what does it matter, Zach, if it's got hard plastic on the inside? Because it scratches easily and it looks like crap after a short period of time. And it really diminishes, in my opinion, the inside. So if it's Civic Si Coupe, that's the one to get. Hey, Zach, what's the latest on the CR-V oil dilution in Canada? I just talked about that earlier. When will the Mercedes-Benz GLS interior going to be redesigned? I don't know. All right, hey Zach, I'm planning on buying a Jeep Cherokee 2019 Trailhawk. Do you think it's a better choice than the Santa Fe and Forester? It's a very different product. That's the exact vehicle that I just drove for my review. I will have the edit done and we'll have it out shortly. You know what I was in my review of that vehicle, the one thing I said about the Cherokee is the fact that FCA gives you choices. They've got 3 engines. They've got 3 4x4 systems. They have, you know, lots of content that you can put or in the car or leave out if you like. They have, you know, it's probably the vehicle in its class if you are going to go off-roading and if you need it to go in the backcountry on a regular basis. So yes, if you're somebody that needs that 4x4 capability and you like the extra ground clearance and you like, you know, the low crawl feature that you have in the Trailhawk, then that would be the one to get. The fact that it's offered with a 6-cylinder is unique now because most companies are getting rid of it. So you have to really go through why you want it. I have no problem recommending it. I think, as I mentioned earlier, the Cherokee on the inside, they did a fabulous job updating the inside of it. And, you know, FCA used to have really poor interiors. And in my opinion, now they do some of the very clean and simple interiors, but they're really well put together. Eric says, I've heard the BMW can end a lease several months earlier. Do you know how that works? Typically, you know, these car companies, whether it's you know, a Mercedes, Audi, or BMW, they want to put the handcuffs on you. Once you lease a vehicle from them, they want to make it easy to get into another car and hard to walk away. And I'm not talking about like you can't leave and you can't get rid of it. I mean, they give you incentives. So what will typically happen is if you have, say, a BMW X3 or a 3 Series and you're getting within 6 months, sometimes they will contact you and they'll say, hey, you know, would you like to get the new 3 Series? We'll get you the new 3 Series. It's got more features and the lease is actually $10 less a month. Well, how about it? And then you're thinking to yourself, well, that sounds like a good deal. They put the handcuffs on you. It's the same with any car brand. So typically what they'll do is they'll walk you out of that lease a little bit earlier if you walk into a new lease from them. So typically that's what they'll do. If you just want to get out of the lease and walk away from the car a few months earlier, they're not going to do that. If you indicate to them you want to get another BMW, you've got a much better chance. And here's the thing is, find out when the end of the quarter is for BMW. Okay, I'm not sure. Okay, here's the easiest thing to find out is when their year end is for BMW Canada, and then work out when the quarters end, what months they end at. If you want to get a good deal on any brand, find out when their quarterly sales need to be due, and then make a deal in that last week of the quarter. Because to make their numbers, they will do some pretty sweet deals. And the reason they do that is if they exceed their volume in that quarter, they get a big bonus from the parent company. In this case, it would be BMW. So keep that in mind. They will do some nice things for you just to get you into a new car to register a new sale, okay? Hero Zero says, in the 2019 Honda Insight coming soon. By the way, I couldn't find any insights at the Honda dealership in Ontario. Any ideas? I heard a story that said that they have a limited stock of that car. I am going to be getting the Insight in a few weeks. So if you're wondering about the review, hang tight for that. I'm going to be getting it. I'll actually find out from Honda about what the availability is. Kremazi says, I'm wondering how you feel about the Genesis retail model. Well, Genesis is trying to do direct to the consumer, model where they basically, you go online and you order the car. They're still being delivered at dealerships, basically the transaction center. So I don't have an issue with it. The problem is that you need to be able to sell through a franchise dealer, and all they're doing is doing all of the work except for the final step is going to be at the dealership. We are seeing car companies offering the same global models for every market. Example, the Civic Focus are practically the same. Well, the reason why they do that is they only have to engineer the car once. The trickiest thing for having a global platform, Golf is another perfect example, is coming up with standardized bumper and crash tests, and also lights is one of the funny ones, is coming up with a standard lighting package that they can use in every market. So the reason they do it is cars are so expensive to engineer. So for example, a new model car will cost several $billion to do the research and development on. Billions of dollars for one new model. So what they need to do is, if they're going to spend that money on the car, they want to be able to, spread it through as many markets as they can without too many modifications. And there typically are some minor modifications for each market depending on taste. Like the Chinese market has slightly different taste than Europe and North America, or quite a bit different. But that's what they do. They got to get their money back. These are very capital intensive businesses with actually very small margins and huge amounts of money. Okay, which car would you pick? Porsche Macan base model or BMW 430 Grand Coupe? They're so different. One is a, hatchback sedan, and the other one is a small utility. I don't know. What do you need it for? If you want a small utility, get the Porsche. If you want a sedan, get the other one. Would love to see more hybrid and EV reviews from you, Zach. Been a fan of your channel for many years. Cheers from California. One of the issues that we have, here's the reality. I'll tell you the reality. They don't get a lot of views. Everybody talks about, oh, you should do electric and all that. People aren't that interested. It's still, like, here's the thing, electric car sales are only 1% of the market, okay? If you add Canada and the United States together, that's 20 million cars sold every single year, 20 million, okay? 1% are electric. So yes, there's more interest. People are maybe interested in thinking about getting an electric car, but the reality is that people are not going to be buying them. This is from Colin Cow, I hope is how I said it right. Planning to sell my track modified 16 MX5 and daily 16 Golf R for an 18 Civic Type R. With tires, I'll see my daily duty year-round in the Chicago suburbs. All right, so I'm trying to figure out what you're asking here. Planning to sell my Miata, the MX5, a 16 that's been modified, and a Golf R for a 16 Type R. With tires, I will see daily duty year-round in the Chicago suburbs. Oh, it's a 6 to 8, I guess, track days per year. Is my math off? I don't know. These are fairly recent cars, so 16. I think yeah, I think you'll be fine with that. I think you're going to definitely have enough money to do that, for sure, no problem at all. So, yes, 16. A Golf R is a highly sought after car. I don't think you'll have a problem selling that at all. So yes, back to my EV thing. Yeah. A lot of people talk about EVs. A lot of people don't buy them. Zach, what is your opinion on the older Volvo V60 wagon with the turbo 5 or 6-cylinder engines? Looking at a 15 model with 50,000 kilometers on the odometer. Thanks. I got no issues with it. This is before they put the new head unit in. It's got the older sort of submerged head unit in the dashboard. Off the top of my head, I see no problems with it. What I would do is I would go and find a Volvo chat room and see if there's any sort of outstanding mechanical issues that you should be aware of. I don't personally know off the top of my head. They are wonderful cars to drive. They're a load of fun, and they deliver a lot of smiles per mile. So yeah, no issue with them at all when it comes to the design and the way they drive. Mechanical issues, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. So please do yourself a favor and find a Volvo chat room and look into those specific models. Ask some questions on the chat forum or the web forums and get some more information on them. But a 50,000 kilometer car is no problem at all. Somebody asked for a wristwatch check. Today I am I'm wearing my Tudor Submariner from 1975. This is a blue one. It's called the Snowflake, and it's quite a rare watch and become quite valuable now. So that is a Tudor Submariner Snowflake. Okay. Quite a rare watch, and this is probably my favorite that I have. I got a lot of nice watches, but this one is kind of cool. Is the 2019 Toyota RAV4 a good choice? The hybrid version. Well, the 2019, are you talking about the all-new one? The new RAV4 that's going to be coming out at the end of the month? By the way, I'm going to get a chance to drive the RAV4 in November, the all-new RAV4, so stay tuned for that in Carmel in California. So I'm trying to think out if you're thinking about the hybrid. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the hybrid RAV4. It's going to give you good fuel economy, bulletproof car. So if it's the current one, no issue at all. If it's talking about the new one, let me find out when I get a chance to drive it. I don't think we're going to have a hybrid out of the gate. It's probably going to be coming a little bit later, but we'll find out more. RAV4 is a bulletproof product. There's no issues with it at all. Okay, let me go to the bottom and just see if I missed any here. Oh, so he clarified, Austin says, the new RAV4. Yeah, haven't driven it yet. I'm going to get a chance soon, so we'll tell you then. Are you going to the LA Auto Show in November? I'm hoping to go. Mike Gurr is going to the LA show with Lincoln, and I will get more coverage from him. So we'll get some coverage from Mike, and hopefully I'll be going as well, and we'll be able to cover it all. So we're kind of running out of time. I just wanted to remind you again, please go to Facebook and like the Motormouth page, because I do put a lot of information that I get through the week onto that page. There's some silly videos I post, but also any kind of car news that I get, any new articles that of interest. There was some people asking about the RAV4 with the CRV with the 1.5 liter turbocharged engine issue. I put some articles on there about that. So that's the sort of stuff I put on there. Also at Instagram, go to Motormouth_auto and follow along on Instagram. Got a lot of people follow along last week, so please do that, and I'll be putting some pictures out. All right, so up against the clock here. Thanks to everybody that checked in. I read all of the questions. Don't worry, even if I don't get a chance to do them live, I do check them out. That's all the time we have for this Sunday. I'll speak to you next week right here on